pound plunges to just over $1. Gunmen in Russia protest against mobilization. Chechnya exempts itself from Russia's draft. Young Iranians are rising up against repression. The hole in the ozone layer will close in 50 years. Wall Street banks pessimistic over cross-strait relations. Giorgia Meloni becomes Italy's most far-right PM since Mussolini. Baby Island appears in Pacific Ocean.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It's Tuesday, September 27th, and here are your top stories. The pound has plummeted to its lowest level against the US dollar since desamuelization more than 50 years ago, following a major slump after the mini-budget threatened to undermine confidence in the UK. Sterling fell by more than 4% in early Asian trading markets that left £1 equal to around $1.03 before it rallied a little to roughly $1.05. That is the currency's lowest rate since 1971, and now economists suggest the slump in the pound could force the Bank of England into an emergency interest rate rise to support the currency.
The media said the fall in the pound will impact consumers and the British economy, with goods bought from abroad, particularly the US, now costing businesses and the government more money. Tourists are also likely to face higher prices abroad. It is partially the result of a strong dollar, with the euro also hitting a fresh 20-year low amid recession. Nouriel Roubini warned bluntly that the UK was starting to be priced like an emerging market and was heading back to the 1970s.
A gunman appears to have opened fire at a conscription office in Russia on Monday, amid soaring tensions over Vladimir Putin's mobilization. He critically wounded a recruitment officer at the enlistment center in Siberia. The incident occurred in the town of Ust-Ilimsk in Irkutsk, as Russians across the country voiced their disapproval at being conscripted, with countless people fleeing across borders. Governor Igor Kobzhev said in Ust-Ilimsk, a young man fired at the military registration and enlistment office.
In another incident, a gunman has killed 13 people, including 7 children, at a school in central Russia. The unidentified attacker shot and killed 2 security guards as they entered the school in Izhevsk, before shooting 2 teachers and several pupils. Officials said the gunman injured 21 other people and turned their weapon on themselves. It came just hours after another shooter opened fire at a conscription office in protest against the forced enlistment of men.
Chechen leader Rezman Kadyrov said he has exempted his region from Russian President Vladimir Putin's military call-up following protests in his home region and his anger over a recent Russian-Ukrainian prisoner exchange. Kadyrov said last Thursday that Chechnya had already deployed 20,000 troops since the start of the Ukraine invasion in February. The Republic of Chechnya overfulfilled its conscription plan by 254%, even before the announcement of a partial mobilization.
Last week, Kadyrov confirmed that an anti-war protest was held in Grozny on September 21st. Opposition media suggested that mothers were detained following the protest and their sons forced to sign up to fight. Local media reported the rally was attended by 15 to 20 women, 2 of whom had sent their only sons to war. But last weekend, Kadyrov said he had exempted his region from Russian President Vladimir Putin's military call-up. Kadyrov said, "I call on the Chechen population, particularly our beloved and respected mothers, to keep calm."
Thousands of Iranians have taken to the streets in protest since the death last week of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, who was apprehended in Tehran and taken to a re-education center, apparently for not wearing her hijab properly. Since last Friday, demonstrations have taken place in at least 40 cities nationwide, including the capital, Tehran, with protesters demanding an end to violence and discrimination against women, as well as an end to compulsory wearing of the hijab.
Iranian authorities say they will restrict internet access in the country until calm is restored to the streets. Authorities hope that by restricting the internet, they can control the protests. But this year's protests are different in their scope, scale, and unprecedented feminist nature. There is also mobilization across the socio-economic divide. A young generation of Iranians are rising up on the streets against decades of repression, arguably bolder than ever. At least 1,200 have been arrested in connection to the protests.
New research from the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA, has found in early 2022 that concentrations of harmful chemicals that damage the ozone layer had declined by just over 50% in the mid-level of the stratosphere compared to the 1980s. Concentrations of these chemicals over Antarctica, where a hole appears every year, are also dropping, but at a slower rate. The NOAA predicts that the Antarctic ozone layer could eventually recover sometime around 2070.
While this hole was larger than usual, bigger than the size of the continent itself, in 2021, the concentrations of harmful chemicals that damage the ozone layer have dropped. However, recovery of the ozone layer isn't a foregone conclusion, as atmospheric levels of these damaging chemicals need to continue declining. The hole usually begins forming in the southern hemisphere from August to October. It reaches its maximum size between mid-September and October, then ozone levels return to normal by the end of December.
Bloomberg reported U.S. lenders, including Societe Generale, JP Morgan Chase, and UBS Group, have asked their staff to review contingency plans in recent months to manage exposures. Meanwhile, global insurers are pulling back from writing new policies for companies investing in China and Taiwan. Financial services executives said they view the risk of armed conflict as low, but they see tarnishing sanctions between the U.S. and China that disrupt financial and trade flows increasingly likely.
Bloomberg said that U.S. insurers have raised prices an average of 67% to cover political risks related to China. Companies that can get insurance are facing a severe realignment of pricing, which has been very acute for China. Insurers are taking out new policies, but cautiously and selectively in China, and have reduced their capacity for exposure to Taiwan. Political risk insurance pays out if a customer loses money due to political events, such as civil unrest, terrorism, or war.
Brothers of Italy leader Giorgia Meloni has claimed victory in a general election that was set to install her as Italy's first female prime minister, leading the most far-right government since the fascist era of Benito Mussolini. According to the Italian Interior Ministry, an alliance of far-right parties, led by Meloni's Brothers of Italy party, is on track to win at least 44% of the vote. With 63% of votes counted, the Brothers of Italy party had won at least 26%, with coalition partners, the League, taking around 9%, and Forza Italia scoring over 8%.
Meloni, a 45-year-old mother from Rome who has campaigned under the slogan God, Country, and Family, leads a party whose agenda is rooted in Euroscepticism, anti-immigration policies, and one that has also proposed curtailing LGBTQ and abortion rights. Meloni's Brother of Italy party, whose origins lie in post-war fascism, has seen an astronomical rise in popularity in recent years, having won just 4.5% of the vote in the last elections during 2018.
According to the NASA Earth Observatory on September 10th, one of the underwater volcanoes that stretches on the seafloor ridge from New Zealand to Tonga awoke. In the days since, the Home Reef Seamount in the central Tonga Islands has repeatedly oozed lava, ejected plumes of steam and ash, and discolored the surrounding water. 11 hours after the eruption began, a new island rose above the water surface. The new island is located southwest of Leyte Island, northeast of Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai.
Researchers with Tonga Geological Services estimated on September 20th the island had grown to cover 24,000 square meters. NASA said islands created by submarine volcanoes are often short-lived, though they occasionally persist for years. An island created by a 12-day eruption from nearby Latke volcano in 2020 washed away after 2 months, while an earlier island created in 1995 by the same volcano remained for 25 years. The Tonga Authority warned All mariners are advised to sail beyond 4 kilometers away from home reef.
FUNDAY News will help sharpen your English skills while keeping you informed on current international events. Tune into other FUNDAY programs to learn more about the world's most important topics in English. Click the link below now to join FUNDAY for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I will see you next time.